cortex is Neo. Now, that is how we activate our higher functioning processes such as reasoning and higher perception. Essentially, this is the scientific process of the mystical concepts of connecting the lower mind to the higher realms. Now, moving on to the amygdala, the twin cherubim and the veil of fear. Now, since the amygdala is the fear processor, the two cherubim, I'm not sure, on the Ark of the Covenant are stationed to guard the sacred. They symbolize the dual role of fear, protectors that are essential for survival, and the gatekeepers that must be transcended to access the divine presence or the inner sanctuary. The pineal gland is that inner sanctuary. Now we could take this further with symbology with the tomb and Jesus' resurrection, because the tomb of Jesus has many symbolic representations, but in this context it is the transcendence of the amygdala's grip. Now when fear is conquered, metaphorically the individual rises from the dead. The asleep state, which is what the matrix holds, the lower mind. We overcome it, we awaken. Rebirth. Now, in the Bible, John 4:18 states this beautifully and simply. Perfect love casts out fear. When we quiet the amygdala through heart-centered practices, love, then the Ark's mercy seat where the divine presence dwells, this symbolizes the state of neutral integration, and once the fear has been overcome, voila. But to reference an everyday example, if you've ever seen The Never-Ending Story, which is what we were all participating in, by the way, but there's a scene where Atreyu has to overcome his fear to pass through the Sphinx Gate Guardians. Now, anyone unworthy of passing through will be shot with lasers. This was that very reference. And not to mention the color significance of yellow, which represents Citrinitas in the principle of alchemy, which is the awakening stage. That whole movie is insanely symbolic, and if you haven't seen it since you've been awake, go rewatch it. Plus, it was one of my favorites growing up. But anyway, let's move on to the limbic system, the tabernacle of emotions. It serves as the inner temple where emotional experiences are refined and prepared for higher transformation. But let's look at a few breakdowns. The Holy of Holies mirror the inner sanctuary where the divine resides. Now, symbolically, when the temple curtain was torn at Christ's death, this can be seen as the emotional conditioning breaking down, which opens the way to divine insight. Jacob's ladder, as we know, is significance with the spinal cord and the 33 vertebrae and the 33 years that Jesus was at the time of his death. This all ties in. But another interesting connection on the scientific side with this is the medical limbic system checklist, the LSCL-33, which includes 33 specific questions used to help diagnose neurological and psychiatric conditions. There are no coincidences in this life, my friend. I assure you, the more you can comprehend these things I relate to you, the more you will realize that what you are diagnosing is not a problem. Because many of the things that you call dysfunction are the natural processes that occur when all of this is considered. So in other words, they are not only normal for the ascended mind, but they are also exciting and signs that a person is headed in the right direction many times, not always, but many times. However, the power of suggestion is a powerful and fortunate thing. If we suggest something is wrong to a patient, then we treat the process as such and ultimately keep a person trapped in their lower mind, otherwise known as the matrix. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. But lastly, the brainstem. This is the root of life. It manages autonomous functions such as survival, and in esoteric terms, we can view this as the root system to the tree of life. Now, let's talk about the River of Eden, for example. It has 4 rivers flowing, and this can be seen as the autonomic nervous system pathways that nourish the body and sustain life. The brainstem ensures the physical vessel is prepared for spiritual ascent. The serpent and the Kundalini, let's discuss that. If you are a medical professional, you see this probably every day. Maybe you even wear one. It is the caduceus, otherwise known as Herald's wand or staff. It was carried by Hermes Trismegistus, again going back to Greek mythology, and the brainstem's connection to the spinal cord is the center. The coiled snakes represent the activated energy that rises to illuminate the higher centers. Now, another simple representation is the cross of Christ and the whole crucifixion. Again, many different meanings, but in this case, it represents the death of the ego-driven survival instincts, which in science terms is the overactivation of the brainstem's fight or flight mode. Now, the rebirth happens when this is accomplished and we move into a state of grace. Now, this, my friends, is the breakdown of what it means to escape the matrix internally. Now that we have shed some light on the understanding that science and spirituality are not separate whatsoever, it really is time that we unite so that we can move forward with our evolution as a species. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, I am seeking open collaboration with progressive-minded individuals in both the spiritual and the scientific communities, because I certainly don't have all the answers, but I am the bridge between the two. Now, you can learn more about the work that I do at penetraliaexperience.com, and until next time, in the eternal, never-ending story and the eternal now, peace profound.